Snowy back with another Rust build. This one's been specifically requested for its, I don't know what you'd call it. It's a fun little base. I call this a flank base, but I would call it a flank base. Well, yeah, for your main base, not a raid base. I mean, you could use this as a raid base, but it'd be a little silly. So we've got a little lounge area in the back. We've got a little gardening area. I've made this out of wood because then you can let it decay off if you want, and you could use stone as well. The thing about frames, and the same goes with door frames, is they don't have a soft side. So a wood, I mean, yeah, you could burn this, but it's still a lot tougher than it seems up front. And then the flank base portion has, among its features, a double airlock. I like the double airlock. It's kind of nice. This is a high foundation, which lets us put a ridiculous amount of drop boxes in it. Coming inside, we've got a little bit of loot. I don't think I put a box down. Oh yeah, I did. It's right there. And you can put a door here if you want. Just got to put it before you put the boxes down. And then going up a floor is where we run into the bedrooms. Couple bedrooms, bit of loot. This one could be a 4-box loot room as well, but whatever. If you have more people, I'd go up another floor and make more bedrooms. But this one, you've just got a shooting floor on the 3rd floor and then roof access. So again, these aren't too elaborate. It's nothing ridiculous or crazy. But if you put a small compound around this, you've got a perfectly good flank base. Just make sure you build it. The way I measure is I grab a sleeping bag and I run away from the main base until I get the ability to place a blue bag, which means they don't overlap with your main base bags. At that point, I place that bag right at the edge, and then I build one of these just past that point. That way, the beds in this don't overlap with the beds in your main base, and if you build a couple of these, you've got multiple spawn points. These concrete barricades are absolutely one of my favorite go-to items in the game for hardening a base. Gives you all the protection of a half wall, as far as, you know, when you're shooting at people and stuff. Costs the same as a half wall to build. It's 200 stone, but has no upkeep. These are upkeep free. Now, they aren't as tough as a half wall. If one of these takes a rocket and even more than a handful of bullets, it's going down. But, you know, somebody's got to take the effort to blow it up, which is its own. If you waste rockets blowing up concrete barricades, Merry Christmas to whoever's barricades they were. So, all of that said, let's go check the bunker. Because once again, I prefer it when people are sad when they raid my bases. So, we've got a couple furnaces, a couple tuna can lamps for holding fuel, and those are handy as light, but I'll show you another trick with those. Access to the TC. This one is really expensive for a bunker. It's also bigger than it has to be, but 2K frags for a hardened bunker plus a flank base is not expensive at all. That's a perfectly reasonable price. The tuna can lights, you can access them from outside the base. Now you can't, what? Okay, that's not what I was trying to do. You can't, it looks like you can get in, but you can't. So you can't steal the fuel out. Hilariously, apparently you can pick them up with a hammer. Maybe if you're just on a build server, I don't know. I wasn't expecting that, but I kind of forgot I had a hammer in it. But yeah, this is the base. And then as far as the build goes, it's nothing too extravagant. But let's take a look. So starting with a basic high foundation bunker, and this is, I'm going to show you guys how to build these. So usually if you're on terrain with a little bit of a hill or even a lot of a hill, the tip of the triangle is facing uphill. But you do need to make sure that you've got, you'll see what I mean if you try and build them. And now I'm picking, like, let's say I'm just perfectly like right here and I'm on terrain. Now, one thing I do is I lift my mouse a little past max height. Then I crouch and I rotate till I've got a perfect compass heading. And then I stand up and place. Now, you can't do a full down right away, but you do this. And then you break this, then you come back and you do this. Now your first test when you're building on terrain is whether or not you can build this triangle. If you can, honestly, this is basically your entire bunker right here. The triangle and the square, that triangle lets you climb in and out. Now you notice the bunker I built is bigger than this, so we can build it bigger. It's two-sided. Now, by the way, let's say this triangle wasn't placeable. It's red. That's when you add this square, and now if this one's placeable, the bunker's still safe. As a matter of fact, you could wall this off and make it a bunker on this side, or you can expand it. But when I build these, I prefer to build it off just a single. You can build it off a double if you want it bigger. Doesn't matter. The build is wall and wall and wall, not a wall. Now somewhere in here you got to throw in your TC. Oh wait, no you don't. I'm lying. TC has to go after that roof. Doesn't have to go after this roof or the next roof, but it has to go after that roof that it's going behind. Now remember, we've got a compass heading that we are aligned on, so if we can find whatever that angle is, we can get perfect placement again. So now we got a TC in, get the last wall in, and now you upgrade. And yeah, I should have done the inside ones. You would, again, if you're on terrain, it's never, well, maybe. You might have some trouble getting to these without opening the bunker, but you probably won't. Just open the bunker if you do. I didn't just upgrade that to high qual. That's not what happened. So now you got your bunker built. And there's your entrance. And the entrance is on these. It's always away from the high foundation. Now, upgrading that at some point to high qual is a good idea, just to make it a little harder. Because people, believe it or not, people are happy when they see this exposed high foundation because they're like, oh, I can soft side this. I don't know if you've ever tried soft siding high qual, but I hope you brought a box of jackhammers. So this thing, the flank base portion, this is actually the build that I worked off of originally. It's just one triangle and two squares. That's it. This lets you put in a very minimal airlock. Again, you got a place to put your workbench. Oop, nope, not that. You get your place to put your workbench and, you know, drop box. Again, you can put all 4 drop boxes in here and still get your access to your second floor where you're going to put your bedroom. Now, this one, like I said, is very minimal, but I'm going to go ahead and build it out because, man, is it cheaper. There's your bedrooms. Now you can switch over to using this as your elevator if you don't want to keep using ladder hatches. Going through garage doors is tougher, but like I may have mentioned, putting a bed here in this area, you've got to get through here and it makes the jump up really awkward. And I have a personal rule, if I can avoid it, no cancer, no AIDS when it comes to movement through a base. It really adds to the frustration factor. There's your shooting floor. Right there. And at this point, I usually do move over. Because it makes sense to move over now. Now, the reason it makes sense is so that you can build a... Oops. a proper garage door entrance to your roof. And there it is. That's most of it. So we've got another trick with the concrete barricades. That is, notice I placed twig. That is very much to help with these. So when you place these, actually, let me go ahead. Alright, so I upgraded the base just for visual purposes. So the crosshair, you want to have at least half of your concrete barricade on the base, but they can overhang by quite a bit and they're fine. And the interesting thing here is these actually usually block ladders. Now there's a real advantage to overhanging them, aside from overhanging them, is overhanging them like this increases the radius of your base. And by making the outside of our base bigger, it means that we can place more of these without running out of space. Because if you have to place them without, if you do it without the twig, you're going to be so tight that you probably run out of room and you can't actually place all of these. And I guess I could maybe show you how that works right here. So if you have to place inside without using the twig, right, that's as far in as what, that was rude. And yes, they do this sometimes. And oh yeah, you can use your compass heading on these too. Make sure you get your door in before you do this. Why are you giving me so much shit? There it is. It's because I'm not using twig. It's angry at me for not using twig. So you already see what I'm talking about. Look at how this is so much less room. Whereas these, could I place? No, not without twig I couldn't. But you'll see what I mean here in a sec. Come in with this one, same basic rule. Now here, this one's a little tricky because we've got two coming in. I'm going to go ahead and take a risk on putting that one further out. Let's see if we can still get this in. Yeah. Alright, let's see if that one worked. Nope. Alright. So this one, because we got this one coming in at this angle and this one, it's hard to place this. There's not much room for it. But you can see what I was getting at. This is exactly the kind of room where you're running out of space and you don't want to be. So you, oh, there we go. Just bring it in. So the other way, there's no way this was going to place with that one. Whereas with this setup, you can. And like I mentioned, these things provide a good amount of protection. You can actually use them to hop up on the roof of the very tippy top. But yeah. And then if you're planning on living in it, and you're planning on doing the garden thing, that's real straightforward as well. Oops, not that one. Couple triangles back here, couple squares. Now these triangles don't have to be here, but you got this little area where you can walk up and get up. It just adds a little bit of convenience when you're moving around. And then you do want, and for some reason this third wall won't place, but this third wall will. One of these, now this is optional here, but if you're going to have electricity in the base, I'm going to recommend this if you're gardening. If you haven't watched my gardening videos, I did a breakdown of all the different conditions that plants have to live with, and it turns out that having a heater, keeping your plants warm, is the single best thing you can do to speed up the process. Is just putting a space heater down and your plants will grow better. So one of these third walls with a heater on it pointed across will heat up both of those planter boxes just fine. And oh yeah, you can put your couch down here, you can put a bear rug if you're running other lights. Yeah, there you go. That's the build. Hopefully that works.